Good evening and welcome to this edition of In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. I'm Eric Marsh. Glad you're able to join us for what hopefully will be an interesting conversation about workforce development. What? Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about. Not just workforce development, but the people who are helping make it happen in this region. And we'll talk to them coming up in just a minute. Want to remind you that candidates have already begun to file for the upcoming election. There is obviously a primary on May 5th and then the general election in the fall. Doesn't matter whether you plan on voting in the primary or just the general. We think you should take this time and get registered to vote. We want to have as many people vote as possible. So voter registration is available through Monday, April 6th. You can do it at the voter registration office, 301 East Main Street, Monday from 8:30 to 5, Tuesday through Friday from 8:30 to 4:30, or you can just make this easy on yourself. Through your computer, your cell phone, your tablet, go to indianavoters.com. You can check your status, or you can register to vote at that point in time. If you want to do it in person, again, 301 East Main Street. There's a phone number there on the screen, and also the clerk's website is there if you would like to check that out. So we want to encourage you to get registered to vote in this year's election. It'll be the last one that you have to do for a year. Turning to our guest, a little over a year ago now, we had a chance to speak to this gentleman on In Focus, and we want to kind of reconnect with him and this time connect with some of the staff to talk about what they're doing. Mike Rao, who's president and CEO of Eastern Indiana Works. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you, Eric.
Didn't scare you away, huh?
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay. Workforce development, that can mean a couple of things to a couple of different people. When you hear that term, what comes to your mind?
What comes to mind for me is helping each respective community leverage their unique assets and resources to position those communities for success in workforce. So as everyone knows from an economic growth standpoint, workforce is the primary concern in the world. So we assist our individual communities, all 9 of them, all 9 counties in our Eastern Indiana region, with positioning their respective communities by leveraging their unique resources, because each community is unique, and leverage those resources so that they can compete from a workforce standpoint in the ultra-competitive global economy.
It has been talked about by everybody, from the local level through the state level, with the governor, with his next level jobs, trying to get people the skills, the certificates, the training. There are 12 workforce development boards throughout this state. Is that a correct statement?
That is correct.
You all are one of them, Region 6, which covers 9 counties running from Jay County up north.
Blackford
County.
Yes.
Down to Fayette, Union, Rush. What is it that you all are required to do, and how did it come about? Where do you get your mandate from?
Sure. We get our mandate from a federal law called the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act of 2014. So the federal mandate grants money, workforce development money, through the Department of Labor to each individual state based on employment levels. So Indiana, the state of Indiana, receives a certain amount of workforce development funding, and then they have an agency called the Department of Workforce Development that serves as a pass-through agency to each of the 12 regional workforce development boards. So there is a firewall, to say, between the state of Indiana and each workforce development board, each of the 12 boards, in order for each unique region to cultivate high-level strategies that meet the unique needs of those regions. So Congress, I've been a longtime critic of many things that come out of Congress, and who isn't, but Congress was wise in providing this option for states and for regions, because we can meet the unique needs at a ground level, the unique needs of the employers, the job seekers, the elected officials, the private and public sectors at the ground level, because we are here and we live with each of those individuals at the ground level.
For those that aren't familiar with Eastern Indiana Works, Work 1 would be part of what falls in underneath you, and that's the name I think that most people realize. But you and your team have really been spending the last couple of years trying to make it just not about being unemployed, but make it about being employed. Is that correct?
That is correct, Eric. And yes, Work One is one aspect of what Eastern Indiana Works does. The objective of our board was to project a brand, Eastern Indiana Works, that resonates the value of work to the population in the region, the state, the nation, and the world. So that was a key core strategy of our board, to shift the way people think about what we do, to go from an unemployment office to a full employment office. And so Work One is one of the things we do. We do many other things, like such as addictions, addiction to employment transitions, a lot of different work experience. We do employer engagement. You'll meet many of the individuals later in this show.
We've had a chance to work with you more since our conversation. It was last December, I think we had a chance to talk. We have worked with you, started a program called Eastern Indiana Works. Got to make it real easy to find. Talk about the changes that you all have made. There were offices that maybe are closed. You all have worked on being a bit more mobile. How did you decide on some of the strategies that you all have followed in the last year or so?
Sure. Well, we listened first and foremost to the people we're trying to serve. And in talking to those individuals, asking, why are you not coming to the office? Many of them do not want to go to a government office, which we are not government, by the way, but that's how we were perceived as Work One. So the changing to Eastern Indiana Works allowed us to also at the same time implement our mobile strategy, along with a cross-functional strategy internally in the corporate structure. So we wanted to become more fluid, connect at a higher level with individuals, and at a very personal level with individuals. So to do that, we had to go where the people are. So we have shifted. Our main offices are in Muncie, Newcastle, which is co-located with the Newcastle Public Library, Fayette County, and we have a Rush to Work office in Rushville, as well as the Richmond office, which we co-locate with the Excel Center.
You all don't work in a silo, though. This is a public-private partnership. The board that makes up Eastern Indiana Works. Talk a little bit about that, because a lot of people have said, you know, if the government could ever get together with the private sector, we could solve some issues.
Yes.
That's where you all are.
Yes, and again, I point to the wisdom of the Congress, the U.S. Congress, when they passed the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. It is mandated that take place. So 51% of our board must, by law, be from the private sector. And then we have a 20% needs to be labor, representatives of labor. There needs to be a portion of the board that's represented by public education and post-secondary education, and then the not-for-profit sector, and then the chief local elected officials, the mayors and commissioners of our region, are represented on our board as well.
As you have gone through this, you found challenges, I'll say, in this region. One of them being the opioid crisis, which we're still hearing about. Not as many deaths, thank goodness, from that, but it's still affecting people and has affected the number of people that can work. How have you all tried to answer that?
We have, once again, taken to the streets to listen. We need to discern what is leading people to addictions. Oftentimes we found that it is a very high level of hopelessness, maybe also known as nihilism, in the Latin. I say that for my colleagues at work because they enjoy that. But the hopelessness that sets in, and the hopelessness is fueled by the lack of interaction that oftentimes takes place in the workplace. So we're trying to make that connection both philosophically and create the imagery in people's minds that work adds unique value to the human experience, that you will be a better person and you'll be happier and more fulfilled if you work. So making that case, but also dealing with the chemical dependency issue through the various partners we have in that sector. So we don't want to leave any stone unturned in dealing with addictions. We understand that it shifts from opioids to other drugs very quickly. We understand that we're on 70, which is a conduit for Chinese-funded drugs from Mexico. We understand all that. But we're up to the challenge, and we want to give people hope first and foremost, and then give them what they need at a personal level.
As you have made some switches, as you have made some changes, as you have listened to people, are there one or two unique barriers to employment that you have found here in East Central Indiana?
I think the most surprising thing has been the high level of hopelessness among people. There are all kinds of myths out there that fuel this hopelessness. There are no jobs out there.
Mm-hmm.
They don't pay enough. There's no future if you take one of those jobs. None of that is true. I mean, you and I have been friends for quite a while now. We both know each other's history. I didn't start as a president and CEO. I actually started as a newspaper carrier and worked my way up very slowly, I might add.
And did a lot of different things like I have.
Yes, exactly. And so no one starts at the top. And so one of the great challenges we have that we've been surprised to find as we talk to clients who are struggling is this, again, I go back to the messaging, this imagery that's created by the popular culture that you can get rich quick. That, hey, if you're not getting rich, it's Eric and Mike's fault, and you need to be angry at them and just spend your time being angry, and so on and so forth. Or if you're working, you're a fool. Nobody really works that is rich. That none of that is true. So we try to dispel all that, and it's very time intensive, and it's an individual by individual case basis.
You've taken some time through the years, you've worked with a number of people, you've put together a team that you're pretty comfortable with to try to answer some of the questions. So as opposed to keeping you in that chair the entire time, we're going to take a break, and through the rest of this program, we're going to meet some of your team, find out what they do, and find out how Eastern Indiana Works is trying to help reach full employment here in East Central Indiana.
I'm thrilled, Eric. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to take a break. We'll be back with more In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV, Channel 11.
Hi, I'm Melissa Vance with the Wayne County Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like to invite you to tune in to Chamber Chat this month. We'll be on site for our annual legislative luncheon talking all things state and national.
And getting that done. We were happy to see that he put out a press release and put on a
survey. That's something we do annually. We survey about 1,000 employers.
Tune in Tuesday evenings, Channel 20 WETV.
Girls Inc. of Wayne County inspires all girls to be strong, smart, bold.
Through interactive girls-only programming.
Kindergarten through 8th grade. Come join us at Girls Inc.
Hi, I'm Sherry Harlan Davis, program host for Read Beside You. Join us on our next episode where our guest will be Candace Hunt, Indiana Raper, and the topic will be vaping. It takes sometimes years for damage to really rear up and show itself. So join us Thursday, 8 o'clock, Channel 20, WETV.
Hi, I'm Tim Scales, the Director of the Center for Entrepreneurship and the host of In Your Business. Join us on our next episode when our guest will be representing the Leland Legacy.
If people are going to take care of seniors, there needs to be a passion, and you need to love where you are, the workplace where you are, and you need to love what it is that you're doing for people that you really want to care for.
You can watch In Your Business Tuesday nights at 9:30 on WETV Channel 20.
Welcome back to In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. I'm joined by Caitlin Zink and Denny Cochran, who are with Eastern Indiana Works. Thanks for taking some time and joining us a little bit. Yeah. Caitlin, tell us your title.
I am the Employer Engagement Manager.
You are the...
And I'm Vice President of Employer Engagement.
Okay. Employer Engagement, since you both have that in your title, what is it?
Employer engagement, we're here to serve as a team the employers of Region 6, which covers 9 counties, and we are to go in and serve. And when I use the word serve, love, I guess maybe a better terminology of it, our team go in and love the employer and then love that job seeker and hopefully connect the dots to where we can get someone employed.
What's the trick, if there is one, to making that happen, to making the connection, to finding that employer with that employee so that it becomes a long-term match and both of them get what they want out of it?
First of all, it's relationships. Caitlin and I, we go into the employers, build those relationships. We do a lot of networking events. We go to the chamber. I'll go to a lot of the EDC meetings, Economic Development Corporation meetings. I build the relationships with them. And when they're in contact with an employer that might need some help, some assistance with some programs that we might have, they connect us with them. And it gives us an opportunity to build those relationships.
Let's talk a little bit about a couple of the programs that you have, because where you're working are slightly different. Caitlin, we're going to start with you because we were with Mike 8-9 months ago when he made the announcement that there was a grant that Eastern Indiana Works had received, $1.5 million over 3 years, really trying to connect people who had problems with opioids. And that addiction. Talk a little bit about that and how that process is working through and what people can expect to see or hear as it continues to roll out.
Well, I think people are going to continue to see the need that we have across the nation about the opioid epidemic that has been touching everybody. So we're going to continue to see more about that. New opportunities, I'm sure, will present themselves along with this grant. I'm sure there will be many more to come because this is such a major need in our community. And so we at Eastern Indiana Works, we've already gotten the ball rolling. We've got several people signed up and going different tracks according to their needs. And we've really enjoyed being able to help the community and give back in that way.
Kind of specifically, what is this grant designed to do? How does it help?
The grant is designed to help connect employees with employers who are willing to help as well. So employees or workers that have been affected by the opioid epidemic, they are able to receive assistance in various ways and then be connected with employers to get them back into the workforce industry. What's
the connection point from employers? They have to be willing to take a little bit of risk maybe in this, right?
Absolutely. They have to be open-minded and they have to be willing to invest in that individual in a way. They have to be willing to take them on board and teach them a new skill set or just allow them the opportunity to re-enter workforce in general.
From the employee standpoint, and you made a statement, I want to make sure we have it correctly. This is someone who maybe didn't necessarily have an addiction, but had an addiction maybe affect them in a way that affected their work life, but they could have had an addiction.
Yes, absolutely. So they have, if they've come to us and they've acknowledged that they currently have an addiction or they feel like they could benefit from some treatment, we're able to provide funding for that. We're able to get them enrolled with our partner. The partners that we're working with, we're able to get them set up with outpatient services, mental health counseling, anything that they might need in that way to overcome that barrier. And then also then they can get involved in a work experience program.
Is this a program that is really kind of rigid in how things work? Do you have a little bit of wiggle room depending on what individual employers or employees need to make this work?
I would say we're pretty flexible. There's always grace in different areas, and there are qualifications that have to be met, of course, but we will do anything we can. Denny and I work really hard to overcome any barriers that an individual might be facing. So whatever that looks like, we're always going to try to meet them in the middle and find that way to help them.
Denny, we've had a chance to talk with you on the program that we've been doing for almost a year now, Eastern Indiana Works. We know that you go to employers and you've described it as trying to find their pain points. Describe what that is and what specific program or programs you talk to employers about most.
Yeah, and I think before I go any further though too, when we talk about team, I think it's wise that I mentioned Jared Lanick. He is our veterans rep who goes into employers as well to try and help them out and get those veterans employed. And then Rebecca Scott, she's a big key to this whole thing and the grants that we've received. She's our business service rep through ResCare at the Work One facility, and she does a phenomenal job. Organized, and once we meet with the employers and they decide to go with the work experience, Becky's the one that can answer a lot of their questions. So back to the original question, if you could ask that again, I would appreciate it. I got
what
a
is it that you, and you just mentioned probably the main program that we've had a chance to talk about a little bit, which is work experience. Explain that, what that is and how that comes about.
Sure. The work experience, when we go into the employers and we say, hey, what are your pain points? And 90% of the time, we just need somebody who's going to come to work, show up on time, and come back the next day. So with this work experience, we can either go through our pool of people that some of our career coaches have been working with and say, hey, will it meet this employer's needs with the job order that they put in on IndianaCareerConnect.com, which we've mentioned several times. And then if it does, we'd like to place them into the employer after they go through the enrollment process, and they can work there for 4 weeks. It would become our employee for 4 weeks, and we take care of it.
It would become your employee. So Eastern Indiana Works is picking up the tab basically during this recruitment period.
Yeah, through ResCare, who's our service provider.
Okay.
And yes, we'll place them for 4 weeks, pay for their wages, and it's the wages that the employer sets. And hopefully after that 4-week work experience, the Try Before You Buy program, they connect the dots. It's a win-win for the job seeker and the employer, and then the employer can hire them after the 4-week work experience.
You have a chance to talk to a lot of HR people in the area. You mentioned their pain points, what drives them, what barriers there are for them to be able to hire. What are you finding or hearing from some of the HR people in the region about where some of those barriers lie, either on their side or even the employee side?
Yeah. A lot of times the barriers are most of our employers through the application process, they need to go through a drug screen, they need to do a background check, and that's where a lot of the barriers come from. And that's where Caitlin can come involved whenever we're meeting with the employers and, hey, how can we help with these barriers and serve the employer and get that person through the door and hopefully through a work experience.
As you have gone in, as you all have worked with employers, found what those pain points are, been able to make some changes, how have you all changed what you do? Have you had to alter the conversation? Have you had to think about things differently because of what's really happening on the ground as opposed to the theories that are out there? And Mike and I talked a little bit about them. Mike mentioned everybody believes there's no jobs out there. Are there jobs? I mean, if you're trying to do this, if you're walking into employers, do they have jobs for people?
If you want to work, you can work. Employers, like I said, they're screaming for help, skilled help and entry level. And the cool thing about these programs, these employers that are screaming, we can get these people into a work experience in that entry-level position, and then they can train them, or we could possibly use some of the next level jobs funding to get these entry-level positions trained to where they can move up the scale within the employer and make a higher wage.
High wage. You just said the word that really kind of trips everybody. You say that and people conjure up different numbers, and the numbers have changed really since the recession, and a lot of jobs were lost. And it's not the same from one part of the state to the other.
Exactly.
East Central Indiana is where you all work and where you deal with. When you say high wage jobs, what does that look like right now? Salaries, benefits?
Sure. When our team speaks about this, we go in and saying, hey, a higher wage, because we think about that single parent mom who's going to go in and try and make a decent living for her family. And I'm going, I think the high wage should be $15, and with the incentive to get up to that $20, $25 mark in order for them to make a comfortable wage to meet the needs of their family.
Are there those kind of jobs here? There's a belief that they're not, so I'm asking the question because you all are in and out. Are there more jobs that are $15 coming in with easy access to raises?
There are. And it might be a point in time where they need to come in at maybe that $12 or $13 an hour, prove themselves, and that's where the work experience comes into play. It gives the opportunity for the employer to see this job seeker's skill set. Are they going to show up on time? Are they going to be a good employee? Are they going to have a great attitude while they're on the floor or whatever the job might be? And they have every opportunity to move their way up to make that happen. And there's resources out there, and I mentioned next level jobs. That's one resource that they can do that.
There's a lot of interesting businesses around. We've had a chance to travel with you in and out of a few. What are some of the more interesting manufacturers that you have come across that people might not think exist here in East Central Indiana?
I can start, or if you have someone.
No, I'm still learning the area. So.
Okay. Aqua Bounty out of Albany, Indiana. That's a fish farm. And I know a few months ago you had the opportunity to go in with us and see that facility, but who would ever think that there would be a salmon farm in eastern Indiana? So that's been one that we've been able to go in and tour, and it's very interesting. The list goes on and on, but we have Tyson Food out of Jay County, goes in and makes a high amount of Taco Bell supplies.
Yeah.
Very interesting. But yeah, the list goes on and on.
Okay. We appreciate you all's time. If somebody needs to find you all, obviously easternindiana.org is a way to do it. Do they need to connect with each of you all individually, or one puts you with the other?
We work together as a team, and we communicate on a regular basis, so whoever they get a hold of, we just want to make sure we're serving the employer the best that we can.
Caitlin Zink, Denny Cochran, I appreciate the time today.
Thank you.
We'll be back with more In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WCTV, Channel 11.
Hi, I'm Melissa Vance with the Wayne County Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like to invite you to tune in to Chamber Chat this month. We'll be on site for our annual legislative luncheon talking all things state and national.
And getting that done. We were happy to see that he put out a press release and put on a
survey. That's something we do annually. We survey about 1,000 employers.
Tune in Tuesday evenings, Channel 20 WETV.
Family disaster plan is the document that a family would make to prepare themselves on how they would respond or how they would react to any event or emergency. The plan should be written by all members of the family. That way they have ownership, they all have involvement, everyone's ideas are addressed and concerned, and all brought together to make a complete document. Contact information is important because you and your loved ones may be separated during an event. If you're separated, you have to know who to be in contact with so you all can communicate eventually together. Family members may be at different locations. They should have a central meeting point away from the home where they all know they can go to reunite and become a whole family again. Everyone should be prepared. When families are more prepared, it makes the community more prepared, and that's better for everyone involved.
Keep up with local government information and shows with WGTV Online. Go to WCTV.info and click on the WGTV Online button. It's a live stream and video on demand site in one. Click the play button, you'll see whatever's on the air on WGTV Channel 11, or scroll down for videos on demand. Choose whatever meeting or show you'd like to watch. It's easy to stay informed with WGTV Online, a service of Whitewater Community Television. Welcome back to In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. We're speaking with members of the team from Eastern Indiana Works, which is the Workforce Development Board for Region 6, 9 counties here in East Central Indiana. We've got Stephanie Clausen and Katie Drum with me. We're good?
We're good. You're good.
I'm going to let you all tell your titles, though.
Oh, it's a long one, Eric.
Go for it. You all have great titles.
I know, they're long. Vice President of Strategic Initiatives.
Okay, that's not bad.
And I'm the Strategic Initiatives Coordinator.
Okay, so once again, they've put you all together and run you all out here. Part of this is about who's handling certain things, how people can connect with you all. Really a little bit more behind the scenes for the two of you. Mm-hmm. Obviously, correct. Denny and Caitlin, who we just talked to, more inside with employers. You all are handling some other things. What's your main look at?
We wear a lot of different hats with what we do. One thing we do to help them is some outreach with, you might say, marketing. We use the term outreach, mm-hmm. and we work on a lot of that. Katie and I work on the website. She's very good with helping with that. We do, we work with the board, our board of directors, which is fantastic. You have 23 other individuals that you get to learn about their business and form a relationship with them. Sure. So we do a lot with that.
Katie, what about you?
I mean, everything that Stephanie just said, I enjoy our jobs because we kind of get to deal with the mess of things. And I know that might not sound right, but you know, with the other people in our organization, they're very forward-facing, customer-facing. And Stephanie and I, we get to just go in and have fun, and we get all the little pieces and put them all together to make a nice finished product. But we're supporting our team internally. Those are kind
mm-hmm.
of our customers.
What brought you to this? What brought you to Eastern Indiana Works?
Well, it was a long road, but I didn't know I would be there. It was kind of just found me. Mm-hmm. It just happened, and it's a perfect fit.
Why?
I have the best team that we work with. We all trust each other. We have each other's back. It doesn't matter what we have going on. For example, when we had to close an office, we decided to go more mobile. We move. We went in and moved furniture. I drove the U-Haul truck. I mean, it's whatever is necessary. We just do it. Mm-hmm. And nobody, there's not like anybody's better than anybody. We just dive in. Mm-hmm. Whatever needs to be done, we're there for each other, having a good time, and
there's no ego, no divisiveness.
No, yeah.
It's really a wonderful working environment.
Mm-hmm.
What brought you to this?
It was just a really good opportunity at the right time. I had some interaction with Denny and Lindsay through my work at a previous employer. I just decided that the time was a change, and I'm really passionate about the mission of Eastern Indiana Works. I love helping people. I came from a human resources background, and I got into that because I enjoyed helping people. This gave me an opportunity to do that, but on a much grander scale versus one organization. We're helping out, the entire region.
You all really are behind the scenes, but still dealing with various customers, I will say, to a certain extent, whether it be the students involved with JAG, whether it be the employees that are coming into the Work One office. And you all, I think, probably get to talk to various people as they come in and come through?
Well, right now we are heavily involved in JAG with the Career Development Conference. It's next week. And I'm going around interviewing the seniors. It's a treat to talk to them, and they have barriers, and you get to talk with them and see which route they're taking, and are you going to stick with school? Are you going, it's a lot of fun.
JAG is a program, Jobs for America's Graduates, those who may or may not be aware of it. I was not aware of it up until almost about a year ago when we had a chance to go to the conference. It's still going to be at Ball State?
Correct.
Talk a little bit about what that is, just a little bit.
Well, there are several categories that they participate in. We have, of course, the Outstanding Senior, which, they've had to compile various things from references to resumes to where they've been accepted to a college. They have employability skills that they have, and they go through a mock interview. And, they go through that. Entrepreneurship plan's another one. And they form their own, and, they're judged on that. And the neat thing is, they do this, it's a very fun day. They win, we have monetary, prizes, and then they go on to, those kids that win go on to state and compete at that level. It's a really neat program for kids to get involved in.
You're helping on the employer engagement side along with a number of other things, and you mentioned that you have an HR background in this, which is how we first met you.
Yes.
How has that background in HR helped you make the transition into Eastern Indiana Works, and the skill set that you have, how does that help the employer engagement team?
I'd say it translates really well. A lot of human resources is really just problem solving. You're problem solving not necessarily one specific issue, but problem solving for a lot of different people. At Eastern Indiana Works, we get people from all sorts of backgrounds who have all sorts of different barriers. So what we do, we don't ever make a solution that's one size fits all, because that just doesn't work for our region. So if we have different issues come across or different opportunities that might be available for our customers, we can look and problem solve and say, how can we make this work for this person so that they have the highest rate of success?
As you all have made some changes, you talked about needing to close an office. I assume you all are doing a little bit of the research and help in trying to figure out what changes need to be made. What are a couple of the biggest changes in the last year or so, and I know you haven't been there quite that long, that you all have seen that have made the biggest impact, not for the employer, but for the employee? We talk a lot, particularly in Indiana, about the employer, making it business friendly for employers. There's the employee side of this.
And we want to make it friendly for them, an easy access for them, so to say.
Right.
We've closed a couple offices, and we have embedded ourselves. We're in a library in Newcastle. We go to Department of Corrections. We go to the food pantries. We are trying to make ourselves more visible in different areas so that, different people from different avenues, they can find us. We're out and about in the community, not just in a office location, which we still have those, but.
And there's also, one thing that I was kind of amazed to see when I first joined on board is that there's even options for certain offices to text for information. So if you work a non-traditional job where you're on third shift and you might not be available during the hours that most businesses are open, you know, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. You can text a number, we get a hold of you on your schedule, and we're very flexible to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our clients.
Is that flexibility something that you see continuing, or and do you have an area that you think you need to tackle next based on conversations that you have? Because I've kind of watched you all over the last year, and it's almost a quarterly, okay, we think we need to change, we need to evolve, we see some things coming down the pike that we need to get in front of. Are the conversations happening as often as I think I see them happening?
Yes, it's a constant. We're always looking to improve. We're always looking for that next place to be. Where can we be the most help? You know, where do we need to be so that you can come, we can help you, and find you something well suited, you know.
Is it difficult finding that, and I asked Denny and Caitlin that, finding that match for both the employer and the employee, particularly on the employee side, because they may not always know what they're looking for.
Right. I would answer that with saying, you know, you win some, you lose some, but with each experience, you've learned something. So sometimes you set up something where you think, hey, this is perfect, this is exactly what this client needed, and this is exactly what this employer needed, and for one reason or another, it doesn't work out. But then sometimes you set up a match where you're like, you know, we might as well try, we'll kind of see what happens. We always hope for the best, and something amazing absolutely comes from it. So those are the stories you hope for. You try and kind of tweak the formula every time you get one of those to replicate that again. But yeah, for the most part, we have successes, and we're very proud of those.
What haven't I asked you? What do people need to know before I let you go?
What do they need to know, Katie?
I heard someone say the other day that Eastern Indiana Works wasn't the unemployment office, it was the employment office. And that stuck with me because I think that is one thing that a lot of people still have stuck in their heads is that, you know, Eastern Indiana Works, oh, that's the unemployment office. You only go there if you have to file for unemployment. We have so many services that are free of charge that can help you skill up, update your resume, connect you with employers. There are some jobs that we know about that might not even be posted on traditional sites. So by coming in, even if you're currently in employment, but you're looking to move on to that next career path, we have so many resources that can help you with that. So it's not a place to look at as like, oh, you have to go to the unemployment office. That's not what we are.
Okay, there you go. Thank you very much. Stephanie Clausen, Katie Drum, we appreciate the time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be back with more of In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV, Channel 11.
Hi, my name is Travis Lang, voice of the IU East Red Wolves and host of Inside IU East Sports. I'm here talking weekly with players and coaches of the IU East teams and just talking about sports and, well, anything and everything in general. Tune in every Friday at 8:30 p.m. for Inside IU East Sports on WCTV.
Watch Wayne County Connection on WGTV Channel 11, Tuesdays at 6. I'm your host, Michael Swigert. Join me this month as I talk with Dr. Laura Blessing, the superintendent of Northeastern Wayne Schools and the past, present, and future of that system.
You just need to pass the course. So it's not just based on one exam. It's a cumulative kind of effort.
Watch Wayne County Connection on WGTV Channel 11, Tuesdays at 6.
When we look at public health preparedness, we look at the overall health of the community during a disaster. When you look at a public health disaster, there are numerous things that people can do to take care of themselves. And whether that's good hygiene, washing your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap and warm water when you touch things, not touching your hand to your face, but also if you look at a long-term public health disaster, you want to make sure that you have a great family disaster kit available, meaning that you have at least 72 hours worth of food, water, medications, those daily commodities that we need to live off every day. The best thing that you can do in a public health disaster is to stay informed. Listen to your government officials and what they suggest. If there's vaccines that we need to get or medications that we need to get in a disaster, make sure that you have those. But more than anything, make sure that you are educated, that you are prepared, and that you are well informed through the agencies that are helping to help you.
Welcome back to In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. We're continuing our conversation with the team from Eastern Indiana Works, and obviously it is a team. We have moved 2 more people into the chairs. Wayne Williams, Gus Lindy, thank you both very much for being here. We've got about 13 minutes, and I know from having talked to you both before, we could fill that and more, so we're going to jump right in. Wayne, tell us a little bit about what you do, what your title is.
I'm the project director for Region 6. I help manage the Eastern Indiana Works Work One offices in our 9 counties and the 7-school JAG program.
And Gus?
I'm the Vice President of Workforce Strategy for Eastern Indiana Works. So I work with Denny, which you talked to earlier, and the rest of the Eastern Indiana Works team, as well as Wayne and the service provider and other stakeholders around the community to develop programs, find solutions for our workforce needs.
We started off, we talked to Mike, then we kind of moved to Denny and Caitlin, who really kind of employer engagement, focused a little bit there. Am I correct in saying that you two maybe lean more toward the employee side of things?
Sure, we do the customer engagement piece. In the Work One centers, we're working directly with those customers that are looking for reemployment opportunities or employment opportunities, all the way from 16 years of age to 99 years of age. That's really what we're focused on doing, is getting people to work and back to work if they're displaced.
What are some of the I don't want to start with problems, but what are some of the barriers for people that are looking for work right now that you all are trying to find ways to overcome? It
really depends on who you're speaking to. We're working a lot with customers that have employability skills or soft skills gaps. We work with a lot of displaced workers that worked for a company for 15, 20, or 30 years that have one particular skill set that doesn't necessarily easily transfer to a lot of work that's being done in Eastern Indiana. Transportation barriers in rural communities. We don't have a lot of really great public transportation, not necessarily because it isn't needed, it just isn't accessible. So we're working through a lot of different things and trying to wrap those all in one good package and give people the services and the access to resources that they truly need.
I think Wayne mentioned it a minute ago. His team really works on engaging. I think that's really the focus. There are always going to be barriers. And as Wayne mentioned, a number of them. I think the bigger piece is how do we engage the population? Employers need a workforce. They need a talented workforce. And we have many talented people across our region. And they're all shapes, sizes, ages, demographics, and trying to figure out how we engage each of those varying folks, whether they have technical skills, they do construction, they do healthcare, or they're a white-collar worker. We want to serve all populations and all demographics.
What are some of the solutions that you're finding to some of the barriers that you're running into? People have a job, want to try to connect with you all because they're looking for that next job, that next, how do they do it if they're working full time and you all are closed when they get off?
That's exactly the solutions that we look for. So Wayne's team does a lot with mobile outreach, so we go to a lot of places, sometimes after hours. One of the things we'll be kicking off here in probably the next 60 days or so is our e-coaching. So clients will be able to go onto the Eastern Indiana Works website, hopefully have a place where they can schedule a book with our staff. They'll go out there and find a time that's convenient for them and talk with one of our coaches through whatever medium they're comfortable with. Could be phone. We prefer to do more face-to-face through video conferencing, Skype, or whatever the client is comfortable with. I think that's really a focus of ours, is looking at what is our clients comfortable with so much technology and so many options available for people out there. What do we have for them, and how do we best give them the services that get them where they need as quickly as we can get them there?
You mentioned soft skills, and there are people who have said, I show up, I'm willing to work. What is this soft skills thing everybody keeps talking about, and why is that such a big deal in the workplace?
It's a big deal in the workplace because it helps business keep moving. Showing up, it just isn't enough. You got to show up on time. And when you're there, managing your time. Being able to liaise and work with a team and coworkers to really accomplish a team goal. What we're seeing is that in some environments, especially in manufacturing, sometimes there are a lot of things that are very, I do one thing. You don't have necessarily that desire to work around a team, but a lot of, especially our youth population, they don't really have a sense of that moving into the workforce. So we're trying to tell them, here are the skills that employers are looking for. In a thriving economy, training seems to be less important as far as can I do, because I can learn on the job, as opposed to what do I actually bring to the employer. Can I talk to other people? Can I greet customers? Can I talk with a management team or leadership and work through some challenges and some complex issues? And do I have thoughts that I bring to the table? Those are all the things that we're trying to get people to really think about when they're approaching a new job or they're trying to move into a different position with their current job.
I had a chance to speak to some school superintendents a little while ago, a couple of shows ago, and asked them a question about workforce development and in the schools, what that looks like and how early they think conversation needs to begin with some of their students as to soft skills, job training, just even where they think they might want to go. What are you finding? Because you mentioned the JAG program, which is high school juniors and seniors. How early do you find that conversation needing to begin before the students hit you?
It depends on who you speak to, but some of these conversations are happening as early as kindergarten.
Yeah.
Just recognizing what students are doing, whether it's they're concentrating on fine motor skills versus more conversational tactic, moving in through obviously the elementary and middle school years. The JAG program is amazing, but we're really focusing on that last point before they exit into the entry into the workforce or college or trade school. Schools are moving back and back and back as far as what do you really want to do? What does life after high school truly look like? Talking about budgets and what the economy looks like. These are all conversations that are changing really in the last few years, but over the last decade that didn't occur in the early 2000s or in the 90s or the 80s. They're trying to get students to focus more on when you graduate, what's really the next thing.
And I would say, I agree. I think earlier we can have the conversation with our youth, absolutely. From our side, from a workforce side, with our culture of social media, and there's sometimes no filter there, we spend a lot of time with all populations. Anytime we can have an opportunity to have a conversation around self-awareness and your perception to others, that's a big component we're focusing on with getting people ready to go to the workforce. When you think about the older worker population, anyone over 40, there's sometimes stigmas, there's perceptions employers may have. And we talk with those clients a lot of times, it can be the farthest thing from the truth, but we need to work on how do you combat that perception that someone may have of you, because it's a real thing these days. It's just a real thing.
What is the biggest perception that employees have about employers that you're finding isn't true or that you need to dispel a little bit?
That's a great question. I think there's probably several answers to that.
Okay.
I think people in general, customers that we work with, are still focused on, I need the right training. When our focus over the last couple of years has been, you don't necessarily need the training. What we can do is put you into an experience. I know Denny and Caitlin mentioned this specifically about work experience. Let's get you on the job. Let's see what you need. Let's work with the employer to get you those skills, close that employment gap if there is one, or if you're a new entrant, if you're somebody younger into the workforce, just get you some experience and start on that path of a good solid work history and be able to develop those employability skills on the job, rather than I need to come day one with the training and the education that I need for this position. Times, as they say, are a-changing, and we're seeing that with relative to the employee's perception of the workforce.
Yeah, I think there's a perception by them. Most employees or job seekers are focused on what the employer pays, and we spend a lot of time getting to understand the whole package. What are the benefits? What is the flexibility in work hours? What's the whole thing look like when you're comparing option A versus option B for where you're going to spend a bulk of your waking hours each week, working for some employer, is the culture right? So I think those are pieces that there's just an assumption that all the cultures are the same and all the benefits are the same and all the work hours are the same, and they're not. That's where, pay might be pretty close between manufacturer A, manufacturer B, or healthcare provider A and B, but what are the other things they offer, and getting them to understand. So I think there's the employee's perception is everything's sort of the same, and that's the farthest thing from the truth about our employers. Sure. They have a lot of varying opportunities.
You mentioned the JAG program, and before we go, and we've got about 3 minutes or so left, talk a little bit about that program a little bit more. Where is it? For Wayne County, are there any schools in Wayne County? I think there's only 7 or 8 through the region. And is it something that you're trying to help grow in other schools, and how does that conversation begin?
Sure, yeah, it is in 7 schools in Eastern Indiana right now. We do not currently have a program in Wayne County.
Yeah, you do. Hagerstown.
Oh, in Hagerstown. My apologies. Sorry.
Okay.
In Hagerstown. I think of that as more of the Randolph, Newcastle area.
No, we claim them.
Yeah, okay. Just making sure. We do. It is successful. The governor's initiative over the last couple years is to try to expand it as much as possible, potentially into every high school in the state. And we're always trying to have those conversations. Where is this program needed? Now, I tend to be biased, but I think it's needed everywhere. I know that going back to my high school years, and Gus and I have had many conversations like this, we didn't have one thing that necessarily helped you focus on what the job market and workforce looked like after high school, unless it was some type of college prep course or maybe a co-op opportunity. There was never a class that worked into a student's regular rotation that said, here's how you get your resume together, here's why it's important, here's what networking is about, here's about building a team, forming a business plan, and covering all those different competencies that JAG really helps address and puts it into a nice, neat package and helps to deliver it to a group.
Yeah, very well said.
Is there one thing in somebody's resume that you've seen a lot that you think needs to go away? Is there one thing happening in resumes that you just kind of go, I saw this, I saw this, I saw this, we should never see this again?
Yeah, and you're laughing, but it's usually dates around education. People think it's important when they got a degree or when they got their diploma, and quite honestly, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter when. It matters how relevant you are and what you're bringing to the table, and when you got a particular license or certification just doesn't have much importance to the employer. And misspellings, honestly. Be perfect. A lot of job descriptions say we want somebody detail-oriented, and then the details are missed on the resume you submit. Those are things that employers look very, very closely at, so employees need to look closely at it too.
Cool. That's a good way to wrap up with a nice tip.
Perfect.
Wayne Williams, Gus Lindy, thank you very much for spending some time with us. Greatly appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Eric.
Hopefully you found a couple of things with the folks from Eastern Indiana Works. If you want to connect with them, they're very easy to find. EasternIndianaWorks.org is the address that you want to go to, and it sounds like they are putting a lot of things on their website, so check that out. Before we get out of here, a couple of things real quickly to remind you of. Again, still time to register for the primary election. Voter registration ends on April 6th. You can do that at the voter registration office, 301 East Main Street. A couple of Martin Luther King Jr. items I want to bring up. Tuesday the 21st in the First Bank Community Room here on the IU East Campus. Speaker is Dr. Julius Bailey. And then on the 23rd, Thursday, the movie The Hate You Give is something that you have a chance to see. That's going to be taking place in Tom Raper Hall at 7 p.m. Thanks for watching this week's In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. I wish you well. Have a great weekend.